You actually see a lot of people that come to Bristol just to hear the sound or just to be kind of around that Bristol vibe.
There is a common bond of kind of an outsider element to be kind of like left alone to do what we do and don't try and influence us.
Bass, it's the sound of the city really, and it always has been, you know, from dub sound systems. It's just always been here.
It's just about getting up the front of there and sticking your head in the speaker and having it. Carnival was brilliant. I mean, everyone used to go to Carnival. Bit of a cider haze, I have to admit. An awful lot of cider going on.
I mean, St Paul's Carnival has always been a key thing. All the sound systems in the street and couldn't get too near their speakers because it would be physically painful.
You had, obviously, Caribbean community, it was, you know, they started the carnival. Mostly reggae sounds. All my punk mates were down there. Bristol was actually quite a big punk city. It was a big squatting city. We had, like, squatters' rights. So there was a bit of a rebellion through the city. I'm sure that had something to play in how we kind of ended up coming out with a unique sound. I don't think anyone thought that at the time, though. We weren't striving for unique. We were just striving to make sounds we liked.
The political landscape, yeah, it was Thatcher's Britain. It was like, you know, it was awful. You know, it's bleak, it was grim. You know, I do my own process, and obviously, so I didn't take much colour film those days because it was so expensive. We were all poor. So when it came to like music brought people together. House parties and jam sessions, stuff like that, great, you know.
Bristol was really about DIY. You find a little space, stick a sound system in, charge 50p on the door or a quid on the door, you had a party. It didn't matter if it was a bit broke down or leaned out or, you know, sweat falling off the ceilings or whatever. As long as you could get a sound system in there, someone cobbled together a little bar in the corner with a couple of crates, you was happy.
Jams, as the name sort of says, the parties got so packed, i.e. jammed, you know what I mean, where, you know, everyone had to do the same dance. You just had to rock, because it's just that round, you're holding your drink, making sure it didn't get spilled, you know what I mean, and you just, you know, riding the groove.
Under the suspension bridge, there's an old tunnel. Someone would get in there, put a few lights up, put a few sound system in the end. Bang, we were there partying. You're talking about dirty old tunnel, but it didn't matter. Didn't matter. It's where the beats were. So you went.
A friend of mine, to get one going, he said, yeah, we can do it. We found this warehouse. We said, where's the derelict building? There's no electricity. And he said, that's okay, I can get some electricity. And he was like, okay. So he shows up with this lead, pulls it through the thing, and he actually got electricity. I followed the lead back out. We actually broken into someone's house, didn't steal anything, broken into someone's house and plugged in just for the power. And it was a good party as well. I think a couple of members of the Wild Bunch were DJing that night.
You left school and everyone just kind of picked up decks, and before you knew it, we had all these different little crews forming and people just throwing down.
It was, you know, art, dance and music, you know, so loads of breakers, graffiti posters, and obviously the crews. And the Wild Bunch were kind of at the top of the ladder. They were like the kind of dream team. They had been to New York, all their records had, you know, tape over it so you couldn't see what they were playing. It was the real deal, really. And I suppose underneath it were all the other hip-hop crews.
Wow. Very interesting how held back, how ignored it was from the mainstream music press. The people in the media or in the music genre weren't interested. It was a really, really underground thing.
Mixtapes were being made and passed around. It was part of the DIY in it, really. You got your sounds out there on a mixtape, and some were like gold dust. You know, you hung on to it because if you lent it to someone, you weren't going to get it back.
So we had cassettes of, you know, Chrissy Chris, Kells. Now, that was what you would listen to.
And then there's a copy of me when I was emceeing at the Mayfair. Let alone how young the voice sounds, but you know, you've got an American accent sort of thing. Well, yes, you're. Yeah, it's interesting to see the progression. You know, I like to think I've made since then, and the simplicity of the lyrics. You know, my name is Chrissy Chris, and like started to lisp on them days as well.
You want a bubble for me, my man, from the crucifixion. Yeah, Bristol posse, you down with me? Bristol posse, nice and easy. It goes like this, like I said before, I will never ever miss. Check this.
I do think the size of Bristol made a difference. It was a melting pot. Everybody creative was all in the same pot, and everyone grew up with everyone, and that's how parties spread. Word of mouth, homemade flyers.
You had to know where to get one, and once you got one, that was kind of like your ticket entry in a sense. There's something magical about them. You'd know how good that night's going to be based on the quality of the flyers. Look at that, you know, and you ain't folding it, you're rolling it to take it home.
So you've got stuff for like Too Bad, this is one for Tricky. It was a very competitive thing. So it was like, oh, we're doing the best flyers, and you know, we're doing the better ones than you. And so if someone else did one, you try and outdo them. FBI crew, that's one of the crews I did them for. So it was like just a little crown effect, so it was making it like they were the kings. They were really good at doing house parties, these guys. They were quite renowned for it. We used to go to these things when we were like 14, 15. I mean, we were funny little kids, you know, I had national health classes with sellotape on. At the time, we were just going to parties, we were maybe painting at the parties or doing boards, backdrops and stuff. I mean, it was just an amazing city to grow up in.
Like growing up from being a teenager, witnessing the scene, it was all about weed, girls and music. We're all spliffheads. And it wasn't druggy, you know, people like the cider. You know, we used to have more casualties of cider than what would be drugs or anything like that, because there was only weed around. But the cider was stronger than the drugs, for some people. The melting pot first was the dugout, of course, which is kind of Hacienda Studio 54 Bristol. It was a multiracial club that brought a lot of people together. It was in the middle of a kind of halfway between the kind of affluent white area and halfway between the ghetto of St Paul's.
It was proper old school club. I mean, yeah, you stood in the same spot for 5 minutes, shoes stuck to the floor. I had friends that went 7 nights a week, literally. It's where you went.
You would get this reggae element being played in there, and the hip-hop thing was kicking off, so you get the hip-hop thing in there, and it's kind of the blending. Bristol music's kind of bass-driven.
If you see me walking down the street, and I start to cry each time we meet, walk on by.
This is just some old Super 8 film shot in the old Three Stripe studio on Ashley Road. Which was where Ray lived at that time. The atmosphere at the time was quite smoky, actually. Yeah, very productive. People, you know, putting a lot in a very sort of unpretentious way. You can see how basic the studio is. People would go into the kitchen to do the vocals, and those were the vocals that were on the tracks that went out. I used to spend quite a lot of time around there, to be fair. The studio was a flat, unsoundproof flat. There'd be moments where Rob and Ray had been working on something for a couple of days and then, oh my God, what the hell is that? Essentially, they developed this sound, they developed this style, which was the very cleverly crafted hip-hop breaks, reprogrammed, but with this bass that belonged to the blues clubs.
You didn't know what was going on at other parts of the country, but you'd kind of make stuff that you knew were going to please your home crowd.
The driving force wasn't to make a whole load of money. It wasn't even to make a national, let alone international reputation for yourself. It was just to do something. Let's do a party, let's make a record. People revisit this time and think about it as being some sort of seminal period. I think it's true to say that it was.
At the time, it's what we did, going out, seeing your mates, listening to different genres of music, not thinking nothing about it. You didn't think it would shape any kind of a global phenomenon or whatever. And what we did was just what we were doing. At the time, you had no idea.
Man, just growing up in Bristol, going to house parties in Clifton, which were basically some kiddie's mum would go away and he'd decide to have a party in the basement. 15 years old at the time, you'd go up there and there'd just be DJing all night, you know, kind of a selection of house music, early 80s boogie music, you know, rare groove, and some hip hop too. This girl called Zelda, who went to my school, her dad run Revolver Records, so we used to go back to her house at lunchtime. She'd like play Smith & Mighty records. And it was always like, wow, what's this? This is cool. A flat was going above their studio, and I managed to get it, so I moved in there and stuff and was living above their studio. I've told Robin Ray this, but yeah, I used to get in there on a few occasions with a credit card, just to kind of use the equipment. I know it's here somewhere. Here it is. Yeah, that's like the first Smith & Mighty produced Fresh Fortune, Washing on Star. This one went top 10.
They had a break and a vocal. The idea, they wanted to stick a cover version over the top of it. We had it for about a year. We didn't really know what to do with it. We kind of thought it sounded all right, but we didn't think anyone else would like it. And we got a visit from management, some manager from London. He asked us to play a few tracks. We played him that. He said, "What are you doing with this?" And I said, "Oh, don't know." He said, "Well, I can get you £10,000 for that."
I'm wishing on a star. Follow where you are.
The Fresh Four used to organise parties not far from here in a similar kind of spot. So the idea of the video really was to try to just show what was going on, not glamming it up really, but a genuine sort of party vibe in Bristol at that time. In the evening time, it was a genuine party, you know, we had the police break it up and everything.
When I first heard it, I thought, yeah, go on, you know, and I saw the video, I thought, yeah, go on, because obviously I know more. It was just real, I wasn't trying to be, you know, it's like, well, what, this is how we do? You like the tune? Wicked, glad you do.
Sat at home watching Top of the Pops. Next thing you know, they dropped this video, filmed in St Luke's Road, Squat, various places, skateboarding and stuff. It was just like, yes! You know, just pride. It's Bristol. My God, that's St Luke's Road. I know them.
Smith & Mighty kind of had this kind of mystical thing about it. Their sound was like maybe a bit grubbier, a lot more to do with kind of dub reggae. What Rob and Ray were doing, it was so, I mean, it was incredibly exciting and it felt like a voice that you could have. It kind of influenced me, really.
You know, we've got some Portishead here. This sort of came next. This was definitely another big sort of scene change, was the kind of trip hop scene. I love the music they were making. You know, it's just beats and bass, man, with vocals, you know? And it was just kind of slow, heavy, you know, just basically you could nod your head to it.
It was in the 90s when Portishead broke through and then Tricky broke through and obviously Massive Attack. I went off to Thailand travelling on my own for a couple of months. I was going into bars and they would be playing Massive Attack videos. They're on MTV. Wow, they are big. I'm seeing them and I'm all the way around the world.
So really, you've got to thank Massive Attack for like putting that kind of groove on the map.
I remember when I was doing a night at Daddy G for a Massive Attack, bringing a dub plate of this down for its first ever play on a sound system. It's one of those things, I suppose, that when Massive became huge, it was like, wow, that's really good, but, well, it's, you know, it's Massive Attack, you know. You sort of thought they would be huge, but it was a surprise, I guess, because they were just people you knew.
People start going, oh, the Bristol sound, and we're like, what sound? What? You know, this is what we do.
Pretty much every interview that we would do for the first 3 years of our existence would be about Bristol. I can remember turning up in Spain and some guy had kind of like done some chart of kind of, you know, the Bristol sound, and it's just like, and wanted all kinds of terrible stuff, you know, and it was all wrong as well. I think kind of Smith and Mighty were very separate from Massive Attack. They knew each other, of course. With Portishead, we just got on and did our thing. It was great, but it was, you know, you kind of get sucked into the music industry. It was just a train that I didn't get off for 10 years. Like the commercialisation of it and the success of, you know, ourselves and Massive, and obviously I know Tricky is a massive, you know, part of that as well. It very quickly become, you know, 3 totally different kind of corners of the world.
People want to move forward, you know. It's always been that thing here, you know. We're not content just to stick doing one thing, always looking for the next thing. At the end of the day, it's all beats and bass, you know, and that's really where we all connect.
I got into dubstep around the end of 2003, and at the time there was only really one place you could go for it, and it was in London. And it just kind of occurred to me that musically it would be a sound that would fit very well in Bristol.
Bristol's always been very receptive to dub and bass music. You know, it's the essence of the city, really. The first sort of 4 or 5 subloaded, people came from all over the country to come to the night because it was the only place that happened. Actually, people came from all over Europe. The reason that the music was so minimal was that the bass had space to go across the room and come back to you and just judder through you, you know.
Any can that you put down on a side was going to shake and fall over. Literally, your eyeballs would shake. You kind of almost start seeing things, it would be that heavy.
Well, my first ever DJ gig was at Dubloaded in 2005. Pinch booked me as my first ever DJ gig, ever. And I was shitting myself. This is the amazing thing about the early days of dubstep. There was just so few people involved in the whole scene. And it felt so special. It was like, we've discovered something no one else has. It's about communities progressing and pushing each other on and to become like the next thing. I think it's ingrained in the city that we have to move forward and continue to shape and reshape the sound of the city.
You can see where it all stems back from. Sound systems kids that would just like build their own boxes.
One of the reasons I really like the scene was because it really reminded me quite a bit of the free party scene and this whole DIY aesthetic. Not about commercial money making. It was about people really being into doing something because that's what they were into.
There's so many producers based in Bristol who, you know, come up through the dubstep times, people who've been in from the drum and bass times. You know, there's so many.
Well, bass music, a large part in Bristol, obviously coming from sound systems. When I was young, that's kind of all I knew was like reggae and sound systems, vinyl, and yeah, the whole culture that came along with it. From, of course, Smith and Mighty plays many a times. Ronnie Size, I remember him from when I was young. I found it special that when I kind of came to a certain age and I came up to a certain level, for me to kind of now play and to be kind of the next generation.
There's been a Bristol attitude towards things, and I think it's been a lot more open-minded than other scenes in terms of the kind of influences and things that people are looking to draw in. Heavy bass lines, dub-wise influences, sound system culture has definitely been a common thread.
There's so much new talent here, you know, happening right now as we speak. There's producers that are out there cooking up something new, inventing kind of a new version of the Bristol sound. So I'm interested to hear what's coming next.
I really do hope it's still going on. It must be, but in a different way, you know. But where's everyone getting their improvisation from now?
It just makes me smile. I get euphoric recall when I think about those days. It was so simple and so, in a lot of ways, innocent. Or you just want to hang with your friends and have a good time.
I just hope the young artists still kind of look back and see these things about Bristol and understand that's where the strength lies. You know, it's not in going to London, it's not about getting big deals, it's about strength of where you're from.
Amazing what's come out of it. It still is to the day, you know. Bristol will never stop being influential within a global music scene.